Hello and welcome back to another video on the Pinnacle Esports channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at players in the HLTV Fantasy League that you should pick and players that you should avoid. So this is going to be something that is going to be controversial for a lot of these players here. And I just want to outline at the beginning by saying that you've got a lot of players here who usually are high performers, but they are very expensive this time around. And it's something that I've seen recently in the last few fantasy leagues, that these players are just becoming more and more expensive. So it is really difficult to get like those low cost players that actually perform well. At the start of the season, we had players like JKS and Hunter who were quite undervalued, and they were just, big differentials for us to take. So just like in our last video, here are our list of experts that have contributed to this episode. And we're going to start off with my picks here. So this is my player to pick. It's Brolan. So this is one that I think a lot of people are going to go either way on. I mean, I think there's still a lot of love for Brolan in the scene. People still respect how good he is. But there has obviously been a fair bit of a slump that has taken place on his output recently. That being said, his last few events actually haven't been that bad. He had a bad performance at IM Rio, but besides that, it's been pretty good. I mean, even at Rio, if you take out the stomp that happened in the heroic game, I think he averaged around a 1.07 HLTV rating, which, I mean, still isn't, the likes of what, Nertz has been getting in recent times or Rops. But, for a player here that's 193,000, that's what we need to pick out on. 193,000. If Brolon has a good event, then he could be a good differential player. He's one that I don't think many are going to pick because people are still wary of NIP. And I think in some regards that's, you should be wary about them. But they're also a team that are on the rise. Like, they have been performing a lot better, getting better results. They made it through the RMR in, quite cleanly. Rio, I think they had, the showing at Rio was tough. They played really well against Imperial. They had a bad showing against Na'Vi. 9 should have beat NIP. And I think just them being able to come back in that series shows that this team is developing. The communication is getting better. And, I have high hopes for NIP here. I think that they will get through to the legend stage, but they probably won't do it cleanly. It probably won't be a 3-0. There's a chance based on the matchups, but, it probably won't be a 3-0. Which means that they play a lot of games. And if they do, and Brolan is performing like he has been, the other events besides Rio, then why not take him for 193? He's a great value for money. You could put the entry fragger role on him. And I just think Brolan here is kind of a no-brainer for one of these players that is cheap and, has such a high ceiling. So when we're looking for players here that are like differentials, players that haven't really been picked by many other players, then he is the go-to and he is my pick. Now, my avoid here is Hooksy, and this is kind of, it might seem like an immediate cop-out of just, Hooksy has low numbers, we don't want to pick him. And that's not where I'm going to take this angle at all. So where I'm talking about differentials, I'm purely saying it in a way that how many people are picking this player for the actual value of their points to be worth it to put you up in the rankings. So in this instance, Hooksy currently is being picked by over 7,000 players, and there's currently 12,000 in the league, which means there's only 5,000 people that don't have Hooksy in their team. So over half the league have him. So if Hooksy performs well, then everyone gets those points. Pretty much over half the league will get those points. Where if he plays badly, over half the league will also get those points. So you're not really going to be moving much with Hooksy in your team. You're going to stay with the general pact. Even if G2 absolutely demolish teams, lots of people have Hooksy, so you're not going to move very far up the rankings based on a G2 victory. People are just going to slap the IGL row on him. We know that's what's going to happen. People will pick him so that they can afford these players. Now, the one caveat to this is that, as I was saying before, these players that usually play very well are very expensive. Like, you can see even FaZe having some poor showings recently. You've got Rops at 224,000. That one I can agree with. You've then got Brokey and Twist at 217,000. That is a lot. Like, that is a lot for a team that hasn't been playing very well and also has struggled at a previous RMR. Not only that, they struggled at the Rio Challenger stage. So if you want to look at this from a perspective of how well do teams perform at an RMR, then FaZe probably is one of those teams you don't want to, go for, especially when the prices are that high. But, loads of people will do it. I think Brokey is up there as one of the most picked players here. The same for Rain. And Rain is more understandable at 206,000. But, where we're talking about Hooksy and he's going to be 173,000. He's, very cheap and rightly so. So, you're going to buy a Hooksy and then you're going to try and get one of these other players in, you're going to try to get Rops in or Brokey. So, if you really want to take that approach, that is completely fine to take one of these really low rated IGLs. But you need to be aware that that is an approach that many people take. So doing that isn't going to get you up the rankings. So if you're looking to win in these events, in these fantasy leagues, it's not really a good idea to go with the majority, because you will. I mean, it's a thing where, like, if you don't go with the majority, then you might just drop off a cliff and you'll be nowhere near. But you also then have the option to be able to boost yourself above them because you didn't pick that player. So that's why Hooksy is my player not to pick. He's my player to avoid. It's not just because he doesn't have particularly high numbers. It's because so many people are going to pick him that if you want to look for differentials here so that you can actually achieve a higher rank than these people, over half the league have him, avoid him. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different here for our expert pick and avoid. So we've spoken with Danny, who is a winner of one of the fantasy seasons back in 2021. So he's going to give you his take on who he should pick and who he's going to avoid. And hopefully you can actually take some advice from someone who has won a season, and you can see how he approaches his fantasy.
Hello everyone, hello Archie, hello Pinnacle. So thanks for having me, and I'm here to talk about my player to pick and my player to avoid. So first off, my player to avoid will be Phelps from Fluxo. I believe that Fluxo won't go through, so therefore I don't want to spend a lot of money on a player from that team. I wouldn't pick another player from that team as well, like History or Lukautsi or whatever his name was, because I don't want to spend money on a player from that team. So it's the Phelps pick there for me. Also, I looked up their last month and they looked really shaky the last month. So that's just another reason why I will avoid a player from that team. But going into my player to pick was much harder because I felt a lot of players were really expensive, especially from the highest teams like FaZe and G2 and yeah, the other ones. And I tried to find something in between, and it will be the JKS pick for me. He was the cheapest after Hooksy on the G2 squad. And I believe he is a stable pillar for G2. He goes well with the support role. He goes well with the leader role. I mean, if you don't have Hooksy on your team, because then obviously you will want to have the lead role on him. But yeah, it will be the JKS role for me to pick there. So yeah, thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.
So as I say, there are going to be a lot of different opinions when it comes to picking players that are going to perform. It's very difficult, especially in a RMR format. There's a lot of best of ones. A lot of these players can perform very well in their opening best of one matchups, and it kind of sets them up for a pace across the rest of the tournament. So yeah, it's tough. There's going to be a lot of differing opinions, and we'd like to hear yours down in the comments. If you'd like to join the league, you can below in the description. And thank you to all our experts. If you want to get involved, then you can leave a comment, and we might get in contact with you to get involved in the following videos. But thank you for watching.